We also needed to think about Do you mind? The way this year has gone has a lot of people thinking about leaving the city and finding a simpler, more sustainable life in the country. A year and a half ago, my husband and I packed up our whole lives in Seattle and moved across the country to Nashville, Tennessee. Today, I would like to show you around the farm and share some of the things that I really wish I would have known when I got started. So let's go. This farm hasn't been farmed since the 1960s, and this barn is really the only farm-like thing on the farm. So let's take a look inside. This barn taught me one of the first and probably most important lessons about farming, and that is the importance of keeping your spaces flexible. Until you really know what purpose you need every space to serve, it is very helpful to keep an open mind and literally modular way of thinking about how you can best use the space to serve your actual needs. Traditional farming would have you believe that I'm sitting in one pasture right now, but really it's 1,000 small pastures, and treating it that way, having my animals graze a small portion at a time, successionally moving throughout the pasture, allows me to get the most out of my land and the nutrients that it has to offer. I brought my dairy goats and my livestock guardian donkeys here from Seattle, and so first and foremost, I needed a place to contain them. Goats like to chew on everything, and since we were storing some stuff in the barn that I didn't want the goats to eat, I made a modular stall here. And then because one of my goats was pregnant, I knew that I would also need to have a kidding stall and a place to milk once she had actually given birth. The thing is though, this is a pretty small stall. Later on, if I got bigger or different animals, I wanted to be able to easily pick this up and remove it or reconfigure it differently in the barn. We also needed to think about Do you mind? It's way easier to think about protecting your animals in an urban setting than it is in a rural setting. And so one of the big changes that we made in moving here was getting a couple of livestock guardian dogs. Livestock guardian puppies are very cute, but they can't actually be trusted alone with your animals until they've been trained fully for 2 years. We were lucky enough to find a trained guardian dog that came with a puppy, so that made the training process go a little bit easier. But it was still a massive, massive time and effort investment in getting these guys up to speed and getting them to where we could actually trust them to do their job and to stick around. The next thing that we had to get sorted was how to store feed. Feed is a huge attractant of mice and rats. So to make chore time easier and to keep our food safe, dry, and mouse-free, we use these storage boxes to set up our feed. The next important lesson that this space taught me was the importance of not waiting until conditions are perfect to do whatever it is that you need to do. My grandpa always said, use what you've got to get what you need. And when the craft school that I'm building was hugely delayed, and I still needed to be able to use my tools and do woodwork without a space available, I decided to convert this into half animal barn, half wood shop. It means that I have to be flexible in my thinking. This is not going to be pristine space. I'm probably gonna have to get some rust off my tools from time to time. And there's always gonna be weird considerations, like having your animal food bins or even a compost tea brewer going in your wood shop when you might just want a really nicely organized, beautiful, calm space in which to work. Let's take a look at the garden. First garden in Tennessee taught me the importance of embracing temporary solutions. Temporary solutions are exactly how we learn new things. We run into problems, we experience failures, and then we collect all of the information that we learn along the way and create permanent solutions to all of those problems. When we first moved here, I wanted to recreate the garden that I'd built in Seattle over 5 years right out of the gate, even down to the fencing. But when we found ourselves in the middle of a pandemic, when I didn't have a truck to pick up supplies, didn't have the money to do that anyway, so I put some seeds in the ground, see if this was a good location for the garden, see what the soil was like here, what kinds of pests I would be up against, one of them is flying around right now, and also what it would be like gardening in a different climate. Something that often hangs me up more than I'd like to admit is my desire for things to be kind of picture perfect. Waiting until I could recreate that perfect garden would have stopped me from being able to have a garden at all that first year. This year on a new farm has taught me the importance of identifying what's actually essential in the things that I want to do. Trellises, pathways, soil amendments, watering solutions, all great things to consider, but to have a garden, plants have to go in the ground. Moving across the country gave me the opportunity to put 10 years of chicken keeping to the test in designing the perfect chicken coop. I'd had imperfect coops that had problems with predators. I had had stationary coops that burned the earth below them. I had tried every kind of waterer and nesting box and all those things. So when I came here, I knew that I could build a permanent coop that would solve all of the problems I'd had with my temporary solutions prior. So I designed this coop around a trailer that had a grate as a bottom. This grate is thicker and stronger than chicken wire, which is not predator proof, but this is. I hate cleaning up chicken poop, so this grate also serves another purpose in that all the poop will fall out of the bottom and I never have to clean chicken poop again. Large farms need their equipment to be mobile, and so wanting to have my chickens follow my cows so that they could eat the fly larvae out of the cow poop so I didn't have fly problems, I wanted to be able to pull the chickens around. But in so doing, I also didn't want to have to carry buckets of water across 15 acres to give the chickens water, so the roof collects its own water. The thing can be towed, it has built-in nest boxes that can collect several days worth of eggs, and there's all kinds of other bells and whistles that solve other problems too. And when we do actually make things permanent, it's also okay to make them a little fun. So this is a perfect quarter-scale replica of the barn. I would love to give a huge shout out to Squarespace for their continued support of this channel, which makes making videos like this possible. I've been using Squarespace to host my website since 2012 when I started my business, and it's a perfect platform for someone like me who's not super tech savvy to create a beautiful website by just dragging and dropping what I like into beautifully designed designer templates on Squarespace. If you're interested in starting a website of your own to show a gallery of your own work to your potential clients, or to start an online store, or even just share a blog with people who might be interested in what you're doing, you should definitely check out Squarespace to host your own site. Head on over to squarespace.com, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/AnnofAllTrades to get a 10% discount. There are unfinished projects around me all the time, and that has in the past allowed me to feel really guilty and just kind of crappy. Learning how to prioritize our time is just as much about figuring out what's actually important as also allowing ourselves to be okay with putting things aside or letting things take a back seat for a little while. I realized pretty quickly after moving here that I had bitten off way more than I could chew. So if I was going to be dead set on doing everything myself, I had two basic choices: to absolutely run myself into the ground trying to make something that wasn't going to work, or to be vulnerable and ask for help. I had a conversation with my dad that really changed my perspective about pretty much everything. And he said that if you are never open and honest about where you're failing or where you're lacking or what's even really going on behind the scenes, then you're robbing other people in your community to have the satisfaction of lending a hand and having the opportunity to shine. And while I don't know if I'm ever gonna love being imperfect in front of anyone else, this first year and a half on this farm has taught me so much about the value of letting people in. If you like this video and you want to see more like it, make sure you subscribe to this channel. We've got woodworking videos, farming videos, animal husbandry, blacksmithing, car restoration, building big buildings, and all kinds of other fun stuff. I would love to see you stick around. Cheers!